Hey YouTube, it's Patrick, and today we're talking a little bit about the DarkNet, or the dark web, or the deep web, or there's several names for it, but basically it's the underground of the internet. Now this thing is obviously gained some publicity due to the Silkroad 1.0 closure and the Silkroad 2.0 closure. You know, it's putting it out there in the mainstream for people, you know, are first discovering what this is. And a little history on the DarkNet: it was actually created by the U.S. government, and as you know, the U.S. government is involved in military operations all over the world, so it's not a conspiracy or why they would create something for them to communicate anonymously. That was the original purpose of this, is to, you know, hide, you know, so their enemy didn't, you know, read their battle plans or whatever, their strategic communications. So for some reason, I can't figure out exactly why they released it to the public, but they released it open source, and what happened is computer hackers and, of course, computer programmers, privacy advocates, you know, kind of gravitated to this and helped write this and create it into what it's evolved to today. And basically what it is, it's this Tor browser, this Tor network that allows you to surf anonymously. And they call it also, I guess the websites, instead of .com, they're like .onion. And basically there's many layers, like an onion, and that allows you to stay hidden, or try to stay hidden, from people spying on you and trying to look at your searches. Now, some things to consider, you know, right off the bat is if you download this Tor program, supposedly the NSA gets alerted, or they start watching you. So you're doing something to try to stay anonymous, and you're actually worsening your cause, because, you know, they automatically know, you know, the shady people are going to, you know, want this. And I'm not saying there's not good people that don't use the dark web, but, you know, obviously if you're looking at a group of, you know, internet users, and you want ones that are going in this back door, this kind of private you know, entranceway, and you can watch that, you know, they immediately go and start watching you. So that's one thing that I've read that you should consider, you know, that you're automatically going to raise that red flag to yourself. You know, and basically, like I said, there's a bunch of bad things and a lot of shady things, and unfortunately the worst thing out there is child pornography. And hopefully the U.S. government has cracked this. That's basically what they said with the shutting down of Silkroad 2.0, is they figured out the onion network to an extent to where it's not as private as people are thinking. And in the case of child pornography, this would be a great thing. It would lead to more arrests of people, you know, doing these kind of horrible, horrific crimes against, you know, innocent children. So obviously that's out there on the dark web. You know, another thing that's a really bad idea, and this one, you know, obviously everybody knows that, like, child pornography is really bad and horrible, but here's something that it seems on the surface as, like, not as bad, but I think it's a really, really bad idea, and that is these assassination websites. Now, they have a website somewhere on the dark web where they have pictures of political figures, and then they have some kind of, I don't know if it's a goal they're trying to reach, or someone says they would, you know, knock off that political figure for X amount of dollars. I don't know how they gauge this, or if they're just trying to save up money, but it's basically crowdfunding for assassinations. And I know there's a lot of political dissent across the world, for that matter. And that's all well and good, but violence is definitely not the answer. This, once again, makes you stick out even more. And I can see just a really well-intentioned, not very smart person, you know, in some kind of political debate, arguing some point with somebody, and, you know, saying that, you know, we can, you know, take out these politicians, you know, through this crowdfunding or whatever, and, like, go on and donate right there. And as soon as you donate, basically, you're now conspiring to commit murder. And, you know, political figures and the way they act and hold themselves, I'm pretty sure they're going to find really big offense to this website and the people that are donating to it. So if there is a way to track, which they kind of said there is, you know, like I said, I'm just worried about people that may have good intentions, may not be that violent of a person, you know, doing something because they think it's harmless, because they think it's not that big deal, because they think they're anonymous, and 5 or 10 years down the road get charged with assassination of a political figure, and that would just be horrible, obviously, for that person who, obviously wasn't making an educated decision at that time. So that's the other, one of those other things you should consider while going on the darknet or the dark web. And you see this and be like, hey, look, I'm anonymous, but maybe you're not. Now, those are the worst case scenarios. I know there has been firearm exchanges and whatnot. I've heard on them on the old Silk Road, which the Silk Road actually censored itself, which is a little weird, but they decided to take firearms and stick just with drugs, the non-violent solution, I guess. But speaking of drugs, that is the biggest reason why people are going to go to the dark web. If you're already a drug user, you purchase narcotics, you purchase drugs. So, you can go if you're tonight, I'm going to need drugs in a couple of days, or I need drugs now, or however, you are in your drug addiction or whatever. You can go out to your local drug dealer, who is most likely a criminal, has an arrest record, and probably has done other crimes other than sell drugs. So you run the risk of getting robbed, basically. So you go into this untrusted person, and going to this location. He could be also maybe some kind of police informant or something like that, to where you could be being set up, or it could just be a bad deal. A cop could be driving by when you're meeting up with this drug dealer and arrest you on the spot. So if you're a drug user and you want to go use drugs, you have two options. You don't only have two options. Obviously, there are millions of sales in drugs a year, so people aren't getting robbed. But those, you could get robbed or arrested. Those are two risks, I should say, of buying drugs illegally on the open market or on the street. However, now since the internet, it's this really lax way of doing it, because you don't have that criminal aspect. You don't have to worry about going to a bad neighborhood to get drugs. You can buy it from your laptop now. Your desktop. You can just sit there, click, and get some drugs delivered to your house. And as far as I know, your chances of arrest are very, very, very small. I've only heard of 2 users that may have been busted via the dark web. Of course, Ross Albright and Blake Bethmore, they are basically, Ross Albright is the head of Silkroad 1.0, and he's still fighting his charges, and good luck to him of trying to get out of that. But then there's the Blake Bethmore, who is the, I guess you could say, leader, for no other good term there, of Silkroad 2.0, and he probably faces the same charges as Ross Albright. But those 2 people were arrested, and also there was some arrests out of Australia and in Europe. But these were all, and in Washington, in United States, there was someone arrested, one dealer. But these are like $1 million dealers. These are really, really big time dealers on the Silk Road that are getting arrested. As far as like little users or buyers, say you're going to buy a small amount of drugs on the internet. As far as I know, no arrests have really been made. There was a Reddit user who had claimed to have been arrested for just buying. He said he never sold, he just bought. And because of the guy they busted in Washington had his information on his hard drive, so the police were then able to use that to go to his house, in which he did have product, the drugs that he had bought at the house. So that didn't help his cause at all. And once again, this is all a story from Reddit, so this is all allegedly. And then we all know, well, we don't all know, I live in Cleveland, so one of our relief pitchers from the Cleveland Indians, Chris Perez, was arrested for having drugs shipped to his house. And I would bet that, there's a 99% chance that he bought that from the dark web. Now, of course, his wife says, oh, I think a fan sent it to us or something like that. But then he went on later to plead guilty to the charges. So, but as far as I know, those are the only 2 real people that have been arrested for buying as far as it's only been sellers, and the sellers that have been arrested have been big-time sellers. So as a drug user, you're more likely to not get arrested, whereas in the street, if a cop goes by, if the dealer you're buying from is being watched, you run that risk of being arrested, being at the wrong place at the wrong time, to whereas if you're buying off the internet, you literally have a 0 to 1% chance of getting caught. And I would imagine, like I said, they haven't publicized any of these arrests if they have made them, and I would imagine they would to discourage the buying process. So, you know, it might be a lot of people saying that it really cuts down on violence and violent crime, because a lot of violent crime is caused by the drug war, or the turf in the drug war, by gangs and everything that ship in the drugs and all that good stuff. So people saying, you know, buying drugs on the dark web actually, you know, cuts down in violence and is a lot safer, and I can see that. Now, unfortunately, these sites were shut down, but there is rumored of a Silkroad 3.0 coming up. And also, there's the Bazaar Marketplace. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's basically like a decentralized eBay. And I have a hankering if Bazaar is, I don't know if they are open source, but if they are, that someone's going to copy that programming and create Silkroad either 4 or 5. I don't think it would be 3.0. I don't think they're ready to do that, but like Silkroad 4 or 5.0, I think will be using this decentralized. So there's not a Blake Bethmore or Ross Albright to go and arrest. It's just like, it's like the Tor network when it comes to, you know, downloading movies and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's really anonymous because it goes over all these different computers, and it's really impossible to shut down. Now, I foresee, you know, this being a future war on drugs. This is one of those ways where basically you can, the government's going to ask for more money. You know, they're going to say, hey, look, we're fighting this drug war on the ground, at the border, in the skies, you know, on the ships, you know, trying to stop the shipments from, you know, Colombia and all that stuff. And now they're going to say, now we have to fight this new cyber crime, basically, this new cyber drug war. And now this is going to, I guess, have a lot of computer programmed DEA agents out there, and the government's going to start hiring more computer programmers for the DEA. So, you know, it's going to be an ongoing battle. Just because they shut down Silkroad 2.0, there has been an announcement of a Silkroad 3.0, but there has been mixed reviews on that, whether it's going to be as good. So far, I heard it's only offering medical marijuana, as opposed to where Silkroad offered all the drugs, heroin, cocaine, I guess crack, and all those, you know, more serious drugs. But you know, so, you know, whether the Silkroad 3.0, you know, can fulfill and the 2.0 and everything, but I don't, once again, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent. You know, there's really smart computer programmers out there. There's very rich drug lords out there. So, and then you have the government that has, you know, pretty much an unlimited budget as well. So I see just tons of money being spent on this. I see, you know, the war to continue. I don't think you're done seeing people buying drugs on the internet. I think that the habit's going to go on for a long time. However, once again, what face will it take? Will it take a decentralized face? Will it take a Tor network? Once again, has this Tor network, this Onion network, been compromised by the government? Are they actually able to shut it down? So that's curious to see in the upcoming months. Also, be careful, because, you know, if you're one of those drug users that buys drugs online, and there are a couple sites that haven't been shut down, and in a couple of the articles that I read, they said these might be bait websites. So basically, they're trying to get a big-time seller to go on there and start selling drugs, so they can go and arrest them, and then they look good by having the site set up. So, you know, obviously, you got to be real careful out there and know what you're doing, and if you don't know computer programming directly, you might want to hire somebody who does and who's going to be able to protect you. But once again, it's going to be the struggle forever. You know, the internet's going to go on forever, and the drug trade's going to go on forever, so it's just one of those things. Hopefully the government can crack down on some of these harder things. Hopefully a lot of you know, uneducated, not thinking people won't, you know, try to assassinate people, because really I think that's just going to end up with those people in jail as opposed to anybody actually assassinated. And once again, I don't even think that's a good idea. I think the non-violent solution is the only solution. So, but tell me what you think about the dark web. Have you, you know, gone on it? Have you looked into it at all? No, just your thoughts. Did you know that it automatically attracts attention to you? So let me know what you think, but that's all I have for you now, and I'll see you on YouTube.